Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is dropping onto PlayStation 5 this week, meaning that millions of new gamers now have the opportunity to experience one of the best games from last year. And with the PlayStation 5 Pro being officially the very best and most powerful games console out there, we simply had to put this game through its paces on Sony's platforms. Even with Bethesda's pre-2023 history as a major third-party publisher, it's still quite a strange feeling for what is now a Microsoft-owned company to be releasing its games on Xbox's biggest rival platform. And it's even more strange feeling that these ports to PS5 Pro are going to outshine the Xbox Series X. The question for Indiana Jones and any of these other games though is just how much better is it going to be? How much more fully featured is this game on PS5 Pro, stacking it up against Xbox, PlayStation 5 and high-end PCs? And the answer is, well, actually not all that different. If you're looking for the very best graphics and the most expansive set of ray tracing features to switch on, then you're still going to need a high-end PC and a very expensive GPU in particular. But let's not overlook Machine Games' technical accomplishments with Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Using a heavily customized branch of the id Tech engine, this game targeted 60 FPS on Xbox Series X, while still pushing for a typical 1800p, albeit with dynamic resolution scaling, and incorporating ray-traced global illumination throughout the game. This uses ray tracing to bounce lights throughout environments and realistically transfer colour and shade throughout. The game absolutely pulls it off as well and looks simply superb an awful lot of the time, with much more naturalistic interior lighting in particular. However, in order to get that performance, Machine Games did have to make a number of cuts on Xbox, taking some effects down to below what even low setting is on PC, and making various compromises for the game in general as well. Without any graphics options for performance modes or resolution modes on the console, even an equivalently spec'd PC could actually get more visual fidelity at a lower resolution than Xbox Series X, regardless of whether you enabled more ray-traced features or not. And there's a pretty common story to the game with this PlayStation port. It seems that the base PS5 has got pretty much identical visual targets to the Xbox Series X, including resolution windows and that locked 60 FPS. PS5 Pro, however, pushes that up to a full 4K, a native 2160p target, still with 60 FPS. That might not sound like the biggest jump in resolution, but achieving a native 4K here does actually add roughly half the pixels again, or even more, depending on the dynamic scaling of the lower consoles. Now, compared to the original launch last December, Machine Games has been able to turn up the wick for the quality of global illumination on consoles, since the latest update for the game last week also brought RTGI improvements to aid ambient occlusion and contact shadows. If there's any further push for PlayStation 5 Pro, then the difference is pretty marginal at best. And, well, that's pretty much about it, really. The PS5 Pro is a little bit better than PS5 and Xbox Series X, but for most people, you're really going to get the equivalent experience just at a lower resolution. And so, PS5 Pro still has the most noticeable limitations of the game on console. In particular, one of the most noticeable ones is the rasterized sun shadows, which are very blocky even at their highest quality on PC, even when they're at their highest quality and close to the player camera. There's this very sharp cascade stepping as you walk through environments where long shadows have been cast, which is in contrast to the much smoother fade that you get when you're on PC without path-traced sun shadows. But enabling sun shadows on PC does have a huge impact to the look of the game, giving much more softness to the way that light shines through windows and tent flaps and things like that, and as you get further away from those window frames and other obstructions. That effect, though, does come at a very steep cost, and so even just enabling this one additional ray tracing feature on our PC tanked the dynamic resolution just to try and keep up. I've got a Radeon 6800 currently, which is far short of the minimum recommended GPU for turning on path tracing, which is the GeForce RTX 4070. And even with that particular card, that is still only expected to hit 1080p with 60 FPS. So perhaps this is beyond what the PS5 Pro can comfortably manage without making really drastic compromises, but it is still such a shame that Machine Games weren't able to extract more from the PS5 Pro, or at least make it an option for gamers that do want to see what it can do. It's also worth noting that even though the game has had multiple updates since its original launch and the PlayStation 5 is getting the most updated version of the game, we did also see some weird little effects on occasion. There's things like tutorial boxes that don't always update, so you get old instructions which don't really apply to what you're doing anymore, and some occasional graphical glitching. So for example, the stained glass in this distant doorway is sort of got this weird flickery effect. But on the whole, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is still a damn fine game, and this relative closeness between the platforms just means that the owners of the base PS5 are missing out on very little compared to the PS5 Pro. That's all that we've got for this graphical comparison, and hopefully you found it useful. Make sure to like, subscribe, all of the usual YouTube things before you go, and hopefully we will see you again soon. Goodbye!
Non capisco che cosa vuole Mussolini dal Vaticano.
Pare stia cercando qualcosa che la Chiesa ha nascosto.
E il Papa ora è disposto a farci entrare? Come mai ha cambiato idea? Cosa... Tu, fermo!
Mi piace.
Eccoti, maledetto! Non fatelo scappare!
Arrest,
Che codardo! Ah! Prendi questo! Ah!
The Popolo d'Italia, Mussolini's propaganda mouthpiece.